Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti, text number 5. Sadayit Vajata Shatro Swam Rajam Kitavar Ritam Katayit Vasato Ragya Kacha Sparsha Shatta Yusha Sada Yit Vajata Shatro Swamrajam Kitavaritam Katayit Vasato Ragya Kacha Sparsha Shatayusha Kacha Sparsha Shatayusha Sadayit Vajata Samrajam Kitavar Kitam Katayit Vasato Ragya Kacha Sparsha Shatayusha. Ladies.
Sadayit Vajata Shatro
Sadayit Vajata Shatro Swam Raja Kitavaritam Katayit Vasato Ragya Kacha Sparsha Shatayusha Sadayitva, having executed Ajata Shatro, of one who has no enemy, Swamrajam, own kingdom, Kitavai, by the clever, Duryodhana and party, Ritam, observed, Katidva, having killed, Asataha, the unscrupulous, Ragya, of the queens, Kacha, bunch of hair, Sparsha, roughly handled, Shata, decreased, Ayusha, by the duration of life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly observed the kingdom of Yudhishthira. Who had no enemies. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Please repeat. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly observed the kingdom of Yudhishthira, but no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed.
The recovery was executed.
And the unscrupulous kings who had joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died. The duration of life having decreased for the rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Prabhupada's purport. In the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. 1. Protection of the brahmanas maintains the institution of varna and ashram, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. 2. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. 3. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. 4. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberating from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of garbhadam samskara, beginning of pure life. 5. Protection of old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity, as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above-mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called varna and sanskara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushashana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. Sadayitva jata shatro swam raja kitavarritam kataya ita shtato ragya kacha sparsha shata yusha. Translation. Clever Duryodhana and his party kindly usurped the kingdom of Yudhisthira, but no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who had joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, the duration of life having decreased for the rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne. Going to the Bhagavad Gita, Satyam Apratishtam Te Jagadohoranishwaram Aparashparam Sambhutyam Kimanyakaya Mahadukam. And in the very previous verse, Krishna says, Privitim cha, Nivritim cha, Jana Navida Asura, Nisocham Napichacharo, Nisatyam Teshu Vidite. The demoniac do not know what's to be done and what's not to be done. Neither cleanliness, nor truthfulness, nor proper behavior is found in them. They say that this world is unreal, that it has no foundation, it has no guiding control. It is simply produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Etam drishtim vashtavya nashtatmano nabudaya pravatnika karmana shayajakato. Following such conclusions and lost of themselves, the demoniac create horrible, unbeneficial works which are meant to destroy the world. In other words, there's a class of people called discretinas, which unfortunately make up the majority of this so-called civilization or society, and they don't accept Shastra. They don't accept the conclusion of Shastra, namely to surrender to Krishna and his instructions. Therefore, mogaisha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasaha rakshasim asrim chaiva prakriti mohanim shritaha. Therefore, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge will all be defeated. So it may seem that this is civilization goes on, and by the clever intelligence of the people who are leading it, without God consciousness, somehow or another they're going to be able to make some adjustments to solve the problems. But according to Bhagavad Gita, actually what they're doing is just creating more problems, more karma, usually sinful reactions, karma in the modes of ignorance and passion. Therefore, one should not try to think that there's going to be any progress in human civilization until people actually understand, as it explains here, what it means for protection, even on the most elementary material level. This is not even speaking of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yari Dekha Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Agaya Guraha Nataridesh. Whoever we meet, we have an obligation by spiritual law to help that person try to become Krishna conscious. If we understand we're not eternal, or that we're eternal, that this body is temporary, and that we're being guided by the super soul, but he's trying to guide us to is our relation with Krishna, to serve him, and Krishna wants us, whoever we meet, that we should try to help them become Krishna conscious. That's our duty. Now, if we don't understand that, at least we should not perform sinful activities. We should still try to follow Krishna's instructions, although it may not be on the highest level. Still, it's a basic level, because Krishna wants that also. Protection of cows, protection of women, protection of old people, protection of children, that everyone has a duty to protect these things, because they don't belong to us. They belong to Krishna. And society is not supposed to be so complicated that it's impossible to protect. First of all, they don't even know what protection means. They think you can have a bank which doesn't go broke overnight, that's protection of people. Especially the people who are trying to accumulate money in the bank. Then if you can protect the bank, then you're protecting them. They have no conception that killing animals is going to send them to hell. The whole society gets disrupted by it. There's even some common materialistic authors said, well, they must have an element of God consciousness. Bernard Shaw, that if you kill animals, then you're creating the situation that there'll be wars. People will be killed on the battlefield if they're killing animals in the slaughterhouse. They'll have to be slaughtered on the battlefield. And indeed we see that. The people cannot understand that in everyone's heart is not only the soul, but there's also the super soul. And everybody is not belonging to a soul, it belongs to the super soul. The super soul is the proprietor, and the soul is the secondary tenant. So if one unjustly kills the body, then the result will be you're actually destroying Krishna's property. And you'll have to get a reaction for it. And what to speak of opening slaughterhouses, or brothels, or mass manufacturing intoxication, and setting up huge institutions for gambling, what hope is there for any peace or prosperity in such a society? They may apparently have something to eat now, and they call that prosperity. The quality of the food is questionable. If it's as a result of killing animals, you have to eat dead flesh. It's questionable what is the quality of the food that you're eating. Plus it's filled with all kinds of insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, all kinds of chemicals to make it look good, preserve it, all the hormones coming from it. It's the cause of disease, cancer, heart disease, all these horrible things that people have to suffer. It's a result of not eating properly and being implicated in the horrific slaughterhouse that is modern society. So, we may imagine that we're free to do whatever we want because there's no God, which is the current propaganda. But it doesn't look like society is turning out to be very peaceful and prosperity under that particular conception, because it's not real. The reality is that we're not the body, and the reality is we're not the controller of the body. The reality is that we're being directed by a super soul, and we have to ask him for the intelligence by which we know how to utilize our body, desire to utilize it, so that the material nature can, or the spiritual nature, can engage us in either pious or transcendental activities. And if we don't know that, then we'll act under the modes of nature, we'll desire the modes to act under the modes of material nature, and the result is we'll be put into different positions, situations of more and more suffering. Te vidu swartakatim hi Vishnu. They don't know that there is a God, and the aim of life is to take shelter of it so that we can perform activities which will be beneficial for ourselves and others. And ye shastra usrija vartate kamakarata nasasidim avatnoti nasukam naparam gitin. That if we don't follow Shastra, then we'll have to act according to lust, anger, and greed. We may not think it's bad to act according to lust, or anger, or greed, which will put us into illusion, and therefore we don't think there's anything wrong with it. Because we don't understand that the goal of life is to get out of the material concept of life and to take shelter of Krishna. But the result is, we'll have neither peace, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. We'll always be in anxiety, and if we're in anxiety, where's the question of any happiness? And if there's no happiness in Krishna consciousness, why would we want to go to the supreme destination? We'll simply take all the troubles to try and solve our temporary problems. Make sure there's something to eat, place to sleep, whatever else we want to do for our sense gratification, and then work hard for that, and then die and come back in another form of life to do the same thing all over again, without any liberation, without any attempt to take shelter of the super soul in any way, either in a practical way in the material world, or taking shelter of the super soul to bring us to Krishna and to the spiritual world. Instead, we'll be simply following our lust and our anger and greed, and write poetry about it, do blogs about it, write books about it, and simply punascharvita charvananam, simply chew the chewed and glorify how nice the chewed tastes. But here it mentions that, at least on the practical point of view, that we should be aware of what it means, what is the consequence of not acting properly. It's not that we can act improperly and get a proper result. Ideally, everyone we meet, as I said, we should think about how I can serve them, to help them become conscious of Krishna. Not that how I can exploit them, or how this person has no meaning in my life because they can't gratify my senses, or I don't see them in relation to Krishna. I see them externally, and even externally I don't know what my duty towards them are. I imagine my duty towards others. And I act according to my conception. And in a civilized society where people know their duties, then everyone is satisfied because I'm acting properly. The brahmacharis go door to door, and if a woman answers the door, they don't run away. It's a woman. No, they humbly ask for some alms from the woman, and they act appropriately as the child of the woman, not as, oh my God, it's a woman, maybe she'll seduce me, I'm running away. No, they act appropriately as a brahmachari, as their child. They don't think, they think, matrivat paradareshu, paradvareshu losravat, atmavat sarabhuteshu, yak pashyati sapanditaha. A learned person, according to Chandika Pandit, not a spiritualist, just a civilized person, he sees every woman like his except for his wife to be his mother. So he thinks, oh, here's Maya. Well, is that the way you look at your mother? Maybe that's the way we've been trained up, to look at our mother as Maya. It's like the brahmachari goes home after joining the movement. For the first time, the mother sees the brahmachari and she raises to embrace him. Oh, my son. He says, stop! Don't touch me. You're a woman. I'm a what? You're a woman. I'm glad you recognize. I'm glad you noticed. Don't touch me. I'm a brahmachari. So that's not Vedic culture. That if you're so agitated that even your mother comes to touch you, you tell her to get out of here. You're a woman. Then maybe you're not a brahmachari really. Maybe you're a brahmastra. You know what a brahmastra is? What's a brahmastra?
Boom.
What's that?
It's a combination between a brahmachari and grihastha.
Yes. Ready to explode. So we have to be careful. We have to see things with intelligence so we can act accordingly. That brahmacharis, if they cannot, of course, if there is too much of attraction to a woman, then we should be a little careful because there's a Vedic culture too, there's separation. But not to the extent that it becomes fanatical, that we can't even look at a woman. She might glance at us and turn us to stone or something. No, we have to, and women should also be chaste. They should not think, well, here's a potential husband, that, what can I get from this? No, we should think, here's my son, and how can I help him, treat him in such a way as that he becomes inspired to remain a brahmachari and serve his spiritual master and Krishna and the movement, that I should act as his mother. So that mood has to be there. So if the brahmachari acts like a son, it's more likely that the lady will act as a mother, and if the lady acts as a mother, then it'll be more likely the brahmachari will act as the son. Then we'll have some culture. Otherwise, what are we thinking? Even if we think we're this body, then at least know what body we're in and how to properly relate and act towards others. Otherwise, how can we have, if we're all cats and dogs, the only thing is that I'm afraid either you're going to devour me or I'm going to devour you, then we just have a cat and dog society. Generally speaking, in the same species, living entities don't devour each other, except the human form of life. People exploit each other. But generally speaking, if you're a lion, the lions get along with each other. The cows get along with each other, generally speaking. Cows may push each other out of the way when there's prasadam. But that's a different thing. They don't kill each other to get the sweet ball you give me cow. You might knock him out of the way so he gets it, but that's a different thing. So these things are important to see and to contemplate. You know, our society is meant to save the world, and we should be feeling kind of sorry that people don't know that they should be protecting the cows. They don't know they should be protecting the women. They don't know they should be protecting the old people. We don't know it either, because we don't have such a good idea of how to do it. Mainly because we're not aware of who we actually are. That we're spiritual souls, and we're not even aware of what kind of body we have. It's not like nowadays the craziness has been spread out all over the world, where people start thinking that men are women and women are men, or they could be. Hormone changes, or some operation. People are not aware of their even identity as a male. And we may be fixed in that to a certain extent, that we're a male, but we don't know how to act as a male. Therefore, if we don't correct ourselves, eventually we may wind up with these other people. I mean, in India, they have the Saki Bekis. Have you ever seen a Saki Beki? You know what a Saki Beki is? They believe that if they dress up like a gopi, then they'll attract Krishna. So they put on saris and makeup, and they act like a woman. But Krishna's not attracted. They think they can attract Krishna with this external appearance. Well, Krishna is interested in the internal devotion, not the external appearance. So we should be aware of what kind of body we have and what the duty of this body is towards others. That's Vedic culture. So that we can actually serve Krishna externally, and then we can develop more easily our internal meditation on Krishna. If we can act appropriately, we won't become because if we act inappropriately, material nature is going to agitate our minds. We're going to offend others, and when others are offended, we may have our minds agitated. We should try to act. I mean, people may become offended, no matter what you do. You can try to stop someone on the street, trying to give them a book, and they become offended. But we shouldn't do things to offend them unnecessarily. So we have to know what is our relation to. Men have to know what the relation to women are. Women have to know what the relation to men are. Husbands have to know what the relation to the wives are. Wives have to know what the relation to the husband is. They have to know the relation with the children. This is culture. And it's not just whimsically. You read some book on psychology. The only real ultimate understanding has to be a relationship with the soul. And the aim of the soul, guided by the super soul. So there's outside of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we don't really have much access to what reality is. People may guess and sometimes get it right by some piety or good fortune, but ultimately it's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the results of not following are there. This is an example of not following culture. They all would killed on the battlefield. Many people were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra because they were in Dwapara Yuga, and you committed a little sinful activity, you got a big reaction. You insulted the women, you didn't follow Vedic culture, you insulted the old people, you didn't follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, then there's wars. Even you weren't killing the cows. But what to speak of now, killing the cows and killing the children. we see Ashwatthama trying to killing children, well not exactly children, but young, helpless people sleeping, and then he threw a Brahmastra to kill a child. So it started. Of course, it was also in Satyuga, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill his son. So it's there every time, but it's just more prominent in Kali Yuga. And the results are there. The results are when Ramachandra Puri insulted Haridas Thakur by sending him a prostitute, then he became even more demoniac. And when he went to the house, when Lord Nityananda and his followers, the coward, went to the house of Ramachandra Khan, and were in his the place where the Durga Mandapa is, because the house was divided into the outside where the men would stay and the inside where the ladies would stay. And Ramachandra Khan at that time was on the inside. And when he heard that Lord Nityananda was in his Durga Mandapa and was asking for a place to stay, Ramachandra Khan, because of his sinful activities, because of his enviousness of Krishna and his devotees, told Lord Nityananda told his servant to tell Lord Nityananda and his party to go away, go to coward men's place and sit there and live there, stay there for the night. So when Lord Nityananda heard this, he became angry, and he said, "This place is not suitable for a cow killer." And he left in anger, because he knew how sinful Ramachandra Khan was. And besides that, insulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Ramaharshan found out, is never a good idea. You have to insult the same person. And he got a similar reaction. So then Ramachandra Khan was so envious, he said that wherever Lord Nityananda's feet had touched, you dig up that earth and throw it outside. He wanted the whole place, where the Durga Mandapa, all the earth there to be thrown outside. And he left. And therefore the Kazi, this person who was collecting funds, Munjaradara, he understood that Ramachandra Khan, his business of collecting funds, was illegal. He was collecting too many funds for himself, keeping too much for himself. Therefore, he came and arrested Ramachandra Khan and his whole family and plundered his place. And in the very same place, he killed a cow and slaughtered it and ate it for 3 days. Arrested the family and then plundered the whole village where Ramachandra Khan was. So it says that not only he got the sinful reaction, but his family got the sinful reactions, and the whole village got a sinful reaction by association. So it's not that someone is doing something wrong and we're not responsible. It's between him. It is to a certain extent, but if you're not Krishna conscious, you're going to be affected by bad association. If someone like Ramachandra Khan is considered to be the leader, then everyone goes to hell along with him by following him. And then they all get the reactions. It doesn't mean that Lord Nityananda has to personally come and curse them. They're already cursed. They're going to get the reactions. That's how the material nature works. And there's so many examples of devotees who've gotten into trouble. When Gopala Chapala insulted Srivas Thakur, then the result is he developed leprosy and had to go outside the village, and his nose and everything else was melting. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came by and he said, "Oh my dear sir, you've come here to deliver fallen suffering souls. I'm falling in suffering. I'm fallen in suffering, please save me." He said, "I won't save you for 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000 births." And when he came back, then, because he had insulted Srivas Thakur. So then when he came back, he begged forgiveness, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to take shelter of Srivas Thakur, and then you'd be forgiven for your sinful activity. Similarly, when Haridas Thakur was talking about the glories of the holy name, and Gopala, it was a Gopala Chapala? I forget who it was. Gopala Chakravati. Insulted Lord Haridas Thakur, then he also got the same reaction. His nose melted away, and his fingers melted away, and he had so many reactions. That's Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's full of advice. Serve the devotees, chant Hare Krishna with the devotees, but be very careful of dealing with the devotees. Or else, at least, our enthusiasm for devotional service will immediately diminish, as we don't see how everyone is actually, within everyone there's Krishna, is Krishna along with the soul. And therefore be very careful dealing with whoever we meet. Not only with the devotees, but anyone. We're dealing with Krishna and his devotee. They may be asleep, unaware of who they are, but Krishna is not asleep. He knows what's going on. And we're dealing with him. So we should maintain our consciousness. And our intelligence takes shelter of the super soul. So the best we can, we have nice relationships with all living entities. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Because you mentioned this regulation that to treat all the women as mothers, but you can see practically that in Kali Yuga, especially in the West, we are not trained to see them like mothers. Isn't it better maybe to keep a bit of distance because Prabhus are not trained, Matajis are not trained, maybe?
Probably not. We're human beings, we're not robots. We can't. There's no question of distance. Then, as one time, I think it was in Brazil, Prabhu was told that the women are agitating the men in the temple, so maybe we should take all the women and move them out of the temples, put them somewhere. So Prabhu said, better the brahmacharis just go and live in the forest, and then there won't be any problem. So we should know if we follow the proper etiquette, we'll be protected. And if we don't, we won't be protected. We're just following our mental conceptions of that. You know, of course, if we're chanting our japa in some place, a secluded place, and some prostitute comes, maybe we shouldn't be like Haridas Thakur. Ask her to sit down and listen to our japa. We should be reasonable, but we shouldn't, as soon as we see a Mataji, we go, excuse me, madam. No, we have to be civilized. We're not this body. It's not an automatic thing that as soon as a brahmachari meets a woman, immediately, unlimited, he'll be burning the fire of lust. It's ridiculous. If he acts as a gentleman, then everything will be all right. Like, I was listening to Prabhupada Memories, and when Mataji was cleaning Prabhupada's bathroom, and usually Prabhupada would be dictating his books, but it was very unusual. One day she was scrubbing the floor to remove some stains, and Prabhupada sneaked in, or put his head in just a little bit slightly, and said to the Mataji, is it all right if I come in? I mean, this is Prabhupada's bathroom. So she was amazed that, he's such a gentleman, that even he charted the whole movement, this is his bathroom, and he's politely asking permission even to come into his own bathroom from a Mataji. So we have to be gentlemen. Prabhupada says the mark of a devotee is he's a gentleman. Anything else? Hvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Or Premanande.